everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. As you can see, we've brought our old 70 Duster back from the dead again. This poor thing has been dead and alive and dead and alive and dead and alive so many times since I've had it. It's just a thing that we do together, it and me. Anyway, I've had this car for 35 years, so I hope to have it another 35. Anyway, if you remember, over 2 years ago, probably 2.5 years ago, we did a couple of videos on this car, and I was getting it all ready for it to come back out, and then this stupid pandemic hit, and it got put back in the barn, and it sat there for 2.5 years, and now we've got it back out. So what we did to it before, we did a major service on it, front to back, and when I started driving it, I found some issues. Number one, the back brakes were really touchy. They were just locking up the back brakes all the time, making the car very difficult to drive. Number two, I had some issues with my front driving lights. And number three, the plastic bushings for the windshield wiper linkage have disintegrated, so my windshield wipers don't work anymore. So we're going to tackle all those things today. I've got it up in the air. I got the back wheels off, so first we're going to deal with the brakes. On this side, we can see we've got really no problem. The brake shoes are worn nice and smooth. They've got that kind of polished look to them. The brake drum is nice and smooth. You should be able to run your fingers over this stuff and not feel anything sticky. There's not really anything wrong with this side. However, on this side, you can feel when you run your fingers down the brake shoes, you can feel they're down near the bottom, they're sticky. And the drum feels a little sticky too. And what that is that's rear end grease or lube, I guess. It's 80-90 gear lube. Old timers like me call it rear end grease. The rear end grease somehow has gotten onto the brake shoes. And when that happens, it almost acts like glue. You'd think oil is slippery, and it sort of is until it gets on brakes. Then it becomes like glue. So when you apply the brakes, because they're kind of sticky like that, bang, it just instantly locks it up. Now, I don't really see any evidence of a leak. I think this may be my fault. From back 2.5 years ago, we changed the gear in the car. It had a 391 in it. We took that out and put a 323 in it. And I had the axle standing on end beside it. And it's possible that I didn't clean this good. And while it was standing there, a bunch of axle grease ran down and got on the flange, which ended up dripping into the drum. Or, who knows, it could be from something years ago. I don't really know. At any rate, we're going to put a new set of brake shoes on it, clean up the drums, and while I'm at it, I'm going to change the wheel cylinders too. Number one, they've been on here a long time. Number two, I do not know what size they are. And there's two sizes. There's 7/8 and 15/16. We're going to go with the 7/8 ones, which will tone the rear braking down a tiny bit on their own. And we'll see how that works out. We're also going to, halfway down in the brake line, we're going to install an adjustable proportioning valve. Now, I know it does have a factory disc drum proportioning valve up in the front, but you can put this one in line downstream of it to reduce it even further when it's sending back, if we need it. I've always wanted to put one in just kind of on spec, so we're going to do that today. So we're going to start by pulling off the springs. And you just kind of... Great. What a great tool. Can you believe this piece of junk? Everything's stripped down. Now we're going to start by putting our new wheel cylinder in. Okie dokie. This side's all back together with our new wheel cylinder, our new brake shoes. I've made sure the adjuster works. And I've put the drum on and off and got our basic adjustment complete. Once we're all done and get the wheels back on, and have the brakes bled and I can pump them, I will do the final adjustment. Our brake drum here, it's hard to see because of the way the sun is shining in here, but I just got some brake clean on a rag and cleaned a little bit of oily residue off it and gave it a scuff with some emery cloth, and it should be good to go. Well, there we are. We did the same job over here. So we've got the right brakes all fixed up now. So that's it. New wheel cylinders, new shoes on both sides. I already did my rough adjustment on this. So we'll button it up, and now we can go install our proportioning valve. Here we are under our crusty old car. And right here is where we're going to put the brake bias valve. I really wanted to put the thing so it went up through the floor because it would be kind of right underneath the front of the seat. But I just cannot get the knob to come off the damn thing. I may have one more go at it. We'll see. But I think they've put it on with Loctite. And it just won't budge. No problem at all. A tiny little bit of heat from a propane torch. Released the Loctite. And the knob came right back off. So I'll show you what I've done. I marked and drilled a hole through the floor, and then we got this little metal rod here, and I heated it up with the propane torch and pushed it through the carpet. So now what we have to do is this hole here, I'm just going to put a little chalk around it so I don't lose it, and we have to get that opened up to 3/8 so that the threaded shaft of the valve can come up through. So there's our valve just poking through the floor there in a perfect position. That's super. The brake part of this job is done. We've got them bled up and the wheels are back on. Everything's good. There's no leaks. Master cylinder is topped up and the lid is back secured on. So now we're going to move to the next little job, which is our road lamps. Next, we're going to have a go at our driving lamps here. One of them burned out, this one, and I didn't have another seal beam for it, so I put in a tractor headlight. But we've since ordered the right ones from our friends at National Moparts in Beaverton, Ontario, up here in Canada. Great people to deal with, and they've always got what I need. So we're going to go ahead and change these out now. All right, so we got our light down here, and these are the closest thing I could find to the factory road lamps that were used on e-bodies. I mean, I got them at an auto parts joint or something. These lights are pretty common on highway tractors. They use them to shine back down the sides of the trailer. Anyway, so you get her opened up, and we'll release these two screws. There we go. Now it's just held in with little clips. Just grab them with a pair of pliers. This is probably pretty similar to the factory ones, how they're put together. There. That can go back in my tractor stuff. Now I'll show you the difference. This is like a utility. That's called a spotlight, or pardon me, a floodlight. It floods the light around. It's for a slow moving thing like a tractor. Whereas that's a driving light. It's a little more focused beam, kind of like a headlight. So this is right side up. It says seal beam. So that's the bottom of it. And this bezel, the screw, is the top. So we get it as close as kind of we can from the back here and get one clip in. You stick the straight end in first, and then the hook end, you just pop that down in there. Whoop! And try not to take it in the eye. Let's try that again, eh? There we go. Okay, so that one's in. And then we'll just kind of, there we go. We just kind of get it as straight as we can. And then when you've only got one clip in, it is a little precarious. It'll want to pop out. But once you get the second one in, you're home free. Sometimes you'll get I've been through this on the tractor headlights. You'll get a replacement beam that's this edge is a little bit thicker or thinner, and you actually have to get a pair of pliers and kind of manipulate the clips a little bit to make them fit. But this one, okay, there's the top. So the light needs to twist just a hair. Not too much. My highly accurate. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. Then we'll hook up the wires. It doesn't matter which way you put it. They're not polarity sensitive. Man, this old car. What a life we've had together, this old car and me. I bought it originally as a winter car back in 1987 when I was getting ready to put my 68 Ford convertible away for the winter. And I handed at that time it was the buy and sell. There was no Craigslist or Kijiji or anything like that. I handed that to Deb, the lovely Deborah. And I said, find me a winter car. She says, what do you want? I said, find something with a V8 and a 4-speed. That's all I care. Okay. So Deb went through there and found 3 cars. That's interesting. The screw doesn't grab anything. And the 3 cars were, and strangely, I'll never figure this out, they were all red. All 3 of them were red. The first one we went to look at was a 1971, 71 or 72 Gremlin X. And that thing had the AMC 304 V8 and a 4-speed. Unfortunately, the car was so rotten, like bad. The next one we went to look at was a 77 or 78 Volare Coupe. Again, red. I don't know, me and red cars. It was also red, and it had a 318 and a 4-speed. Again, like the Gremlin, pretty rotten. And then the third one we went to look at was this little 70 Duster. In those days, it was red, and it had a 1966 273 Commando engine and a 4-speed in it that somebody had put in it. And for $550, it wasn't really rotted. It was the best of the 3, so that's the one we bought. And here we are 35 years later. Okay, there they are. Now, what do you think the chances are that they'll actually work? All right. Look at that. Snazzy. We got road lamps. Next thing we're going to deal with is the speed control servo. Oh, and here's an interesting thing. If you're ever wondering what it looks like, that is an actual original Mopar A-body cruise control servo mounting bracket. You don't find those every day. So here's what we're up against with this thing. It does not recover. What I'm trying to say is the cruise control works. You can go down the road, set the cruise control to the speed you want to go. Sorry, speed control. It's a Mopar. You set the speed control to the speed you want to go, and the car runs that speed. But problem is, as soon as it goes down a hill and the speed control servo backs off, it doesn't pick back up. So we're just going to have a look in here and see if there's something wrong that we can identify and easily fix. If not, I'll have to go over to the shed and see if I can find another one. It started pouring rain, so my helpers have come in the shop. Nugget, you're not eating my jack, are you? What do you got? I've taken these 4 screws out. I also took off this little exhaust cover that goes over there, and the foam is really degraded in there. This thing may have sucked in a bunch of crud. Maybe that's what's wrong with it. Anyway, see if we can get this off. I'm going to need a scraper or something. So let's see what we're up against here. I mean, it all looks okay. There's a couple of sets of points in here. I guess I can just make sure they're clean, and then we'll try it out again. I went ahead and made a new little filter for this thing out of a piece of Brillo pad that we had kicking around. This originally had a tin one on it, but it was all smashed up, so I found a plastic one off a newer Servo. So we'll put that on. I didn't really find anything wrong inside it. All I did was make sure all the contacts were clean and blew some compressed air in it to make sure there's no loose stuff floating around in there. We're going to put it back together and see what happens. In the meantime, I'll start looking around in the shed for another one. All right, well, no new parts rebuild complete. Now we're going to, we'll crank it up and see if the cruise control works. It's here on stand so we can test it. Oh, Deb, can you close the battery, please? Thank you. Now we can try it. Okay, so I'm going to put it in fourth gear. And slowly we'll run her up to about 40 miles an hour. Turn it on, hit set. Nothing. Doesn't work at all. All right, what we're up against now is the worst job you could ever have to possibly do on this car. I have to fix the wiper linkage. So let me get the part. Our wiper linkage is held together with these three little nylon bushings, and they've all disintegrated and fallen apart. And this car is very nasty. Normally on an A-body, it's not under the hood on these cars, I guess is what I'm getting at. It's under the dash. The wiper linkage is inside the car. And because this car has air conditioning and a console, it just, you can't just reach up and do it like you could on a normal A-body like our 71 Valiant or Deb's 69 Dart. So this is going to be a fun job. We're going to have to pull the air conditioning vent out, drop the steering column, take the kick panels out, undo the lower bolts of the dash on both ends, and try and pull the dash out as far as we can. Take the glove box out, and we should be able to get these things changed. Wish me luck. Okay, so you can see all the way in there. That's the back of the wiper motor. There's one bushing there. There's another one up in behind that defroster duct there. You can just see the end of the little wiper pivot. That's what runs the passenger side wiper arm. And the bushings are still intact on these two, but the one at the other end on the driver's side, it's completely shattered. There's nothing left of it. So at least I don't have to get that one off. You can see here what we've had to do. I've got the dash half pulled out, half the interior's out of it. It's a big mess. But anyway, hopefully we should be able to get this thing out of here. Well, I got the linkage out. It wasn't fun and my back hurts, but I got it out. So, don't ask me why. I got 3 bushings. Turns out you actually need 4. So anyway, I got one of these from one of those help universal things. These are not the greatest of quality. So what we're going to do is use this one at the motor connection, because that one you can actually change with the linkage in the car. It's not so bad. So we'll put this one there, and we'll put these decent quality looking ones in here. All right, so we're going to change these babies now. There goes the old one. And you got to make sure you get them in the right way. So we sit it over top of the socket. This is 11/16. And you just want to make sure that you've got it straight and flat, right? So we've got that. And then we got a 7/16 socket. I'm going to get a deep one. Make it a little easier. Oh, it must be in the car. And then you just put that on there and you just whack them in with a hammer. It seems a little violent, but they go in. That's the way the factory got them in. That one's not quite in yet. There we go. Now, getting them back in the car is the fun part. This one here is the link. This is the one that drives it, basically, and this one is the slave. So this one drives the left-hand wiper pivot, and then this one connects the left and right together. So we're going to put this guy back in first. So what we're going to do is pack these with silicone grease, and then you got to get in there and kind of squeeze them together with a channel lock. Another thing to bear in mind, this link, the one that connects the two together, you see that little kink in this one end there? That's supposed to be there, and this end is left. You'll see, I've gone over it with a Sharpie, but it's actually stamped left and right. So that's what way it goes in. It actually goes in that way. This one goes up. So we're going to feed it in and then see if we can get it attached. We've got all our wiper linkage back together now, and it's nice, good and tight, and it should last for many more years to come. In the end, the new bushings that I got, I had two sets. I had some that were kind of hard, and we had just a heck of a time trying to get them to go together. And then I got these other ones. They're Dorman that were a little more pliable, and they went right in just like the factory ones do. So that's what ones we ended up using, and it's all good. Another thing that's important on these, on A bodies, and I guess the early B bodies too, with the wiper linkage under the dash, this gasket and this foam, I guess it's a gasket here, are very important. That's what keeps the thing from dripping on your foot when you're driving. And that's really annoying. So anyway, we're going to get in there now and feed this thing in and get it all back up in, and it should be good. Well, it's a moment of truth. Let's see what happens. It's good. It's going around and around. We don't hear it. The linkage rubbing on anything under there. Let's see if it'll park now. There you go. Perfect. All right, here we go. We'll go for a road test. I got to go down to the mailbox. And I got to get some gas. Got the sunroof open. Man, this thing is covered in dust, and I just got it all cleaned up the other day. What happens when you live at a four-way stop in the country. Come on, car. this is the first time this car's had road under its wheels in 2.5 years. Here's what we need, some goat juice. Go back home. We'll take the fast road this time. Our test drive went pretty well. When I came back, one thing I found, the windshield washers were not working. Turns out it was just the pump was bad. So I scrounged around in my bits and pieces, found a good used pump. It works fine. So that's up and running again. And finally, in my shed, I knew I had a box of speed control transducers. I finally found it. So we've swapped that out. And it's been raining a little bit. As soon as the road gets dry, we'll take it out and see if our speed control is back working. All right, we have success. This one works. I just took it out for a spin. Now, it is a little bit lazy. It lets the car speed up when you go down a hill, and it takes it a minute to react to go back up a hill. But I kind of think that that's just because this servo has been sitting around probably for 25 or 30 years, and maybe it's a little stiff. So we're just going to bear with it and see if it loosens itself up over time. If not, we'll throw another one on it. But I think we should be okay with this one. Another thing I noticed when I was driving around, when I put this back together yesterday, I've got the console too far forward. It's difficult second gear. I'm having a hard time with it, getting it in second gear and keeping it in. So what we're going to do is loosen the hardware and just slide the console back a little bit and see if that improves the situation. That's better. It's always just touch there in third. Probably a competition plus shifter with positive stops, and it would have a little shorter throws. Even if this original shifter wasn't so worn out, it would probably have a little shorter throws. But that's much better. That should work just fine for now. Well, that worked perfectly. We slid the console back, I guess, about a half an inch. And that's all that it took. Everything works perfectly now. So I guess we can move on to the next job. I don't think there is a next job. I think we're kind of done. Tomorrow night is cruise night up in Uxbridge. And we're going to get the old green machine up there, hopefully. It hasn't been to a cruise night in a very, very long time. Probably 3 or 4 years. Well, I guess that'll do it for this one. We've done a lot of work on this old thing, and it's responded pretty well. It's working great again. It was always a good car. I've never in my life hesitated to hop in this thing and go anywhere, anytime. It's just been that great of a car. The last little bit when the back brakes started getting grabby, and of course when the windshield wipers quit, well, that was kind of a whole nother story. It kind of got it parked. But anyway, I've got the time now, and I really wanted to get it fixed up. So it's fixed up. We're not all the way there yet. It still needs some stuff. I got to put a clutch in it. Now that I'm driving it, the clutch is really chattery. The take-up is really, really kind of violent on it. It's not, the clutch doesn't have a nice take-up. But that's okay. I mean, it's easy to put a clutch in this. And while we're at it, the transmission leaks, so we'll go through the transmission, reseal it. have a look at it. I don't think it needs anything. The transmission works great. So I don't think I'll really put any parts in it, but it does need a reseal. But that's another job for another day. That's it for jobs on this one today. I'm tired, and my hands are like hamburger from having them inside that dash. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope you'll come back and see us again on the Claremont Classic Garage. And until then, this is Kevin checking out. So long.